Good morning, student. Today we are going to start with the third lesson of history syllabus, that is India and European colonialism. In the last lesson, we learnt about the European colonialism and its impact on the world history. Now in this lesson, we are going to learn about the spread of colonialism in India and its impact. So while learning this, we have to focus on the arrival of Portuguese, British, Dutch and French in India. So first we'll start with the Portuguese. Now all we heard the name of Vasco da Gama. You have heard this name in the first chapter of history also. He is one of the major sea explorer. Vasco da Gama, he was a Portuguese nobleman, was born around 1460, and he sailed from the Lisbon on July 8, 1497 with a crew of 170 men. He arrived at Calicut on May 20, 1498. Vasco da Gama, he set sail on the first European journey to India. More than 500 years ago on the day of 8 July. On his journey, he made stop at Mozambique, Mombasa and Malindi, which are in Africa. His journey opened the first all-water trade route between Europe and Asia. Vasco da Gama, a Portuguese sea explorer, he reached the port of Calicut in the year 1498. And when he landed on the Indian coast, so it did not take a long time to establish the control of Portuguese in India. In the 16th century, Portuguese had brought a considerable portion of the Indian coast under their control. And that was the starting of the Portuguese to conquer the India's land. Now this was the period when there was the strained relations among the rulers in the South India, and the Portuguese, they took the advantage of this relationship. They established their colonies on the western coast and built the forts for their protection and used them to protect their colonies from the external attack and to reinforce them continuously with the supplies by using seaways. So what Portuguese they did, when there was bad relations among the various rulers in the South India, so these Portuguese, they established their colonies on the western coast of India, as well as they built the forts for their protection from the external attack, and they were continuously supplying the reinforce by using the seaway. Now these Portuguese, they had a strong naval force. They used to launch the sudden attacks on their enemy territory from the sea and wreck it completely. Now here we can see that the Indian local rulers, they could not match the Portuguese in their war tactics because they were very strong. They were having a strong naval support. After some time, these Portuguese, they established their control on the Indian Ocean, and now it became essential for the Indian rulers to get a license which was called as the Kartas from them for sailing on the Indian Ocean. Okay, now here you can see what is mean by Kartaj. Kartaj was a naval trade license for or pass issued by the Portuguese in the Indian Ocean during the 16th century under the rule of the Portuguese Empire. So this Kartaj licensing system was created in 1502 to control and enforce the Portuguese trade monopoly over a wide sea in the Indian Ocean. Because the Portuguese, they wanted to establish their monopoly over the Indian Ocean. So they made it essential that everybody should take this Kartaj, then only they could do the trade, they could sail their ships in the Indian Ocean. So taking advantage of the local commerce, the Kartaj was issued by the Portuguese at the low cost and granting merchant ship protection against pirates and the rival state, which then abounded in these seas. Actually, the main purpose was to ensure that the merchants paid the tax in Portuguese trading post and guaranteeing its monopoly on the spice trade and the other products. And officially no vessel was permitted by the Portuguese to sail in the Indian coast without this document, risking losing their cargo, being attacked and even sunk by the Portuguese. Means suppose if the people they are going to sail their boats, their ships without this Kartaj, so that time the Portuguese they used to attack on their ships, either even sunk, the ships were sunk by the Portuguese and mainly Muslim Hindu and the Malay merchant ships. Every year during the monsoon, Portuguese fleets patrol the coast requiring this document. Later, as Portuguese lost influence, the issue of the Kartaj becomes in itself an important source of income for the crown. So here we can see that if the local rulers they dare to sail their boat in the sea without a Portuguese license, so that time the ships were either seized or sunk by the Portuguese force. Portuguese they had become so much powerful that even the mighty Mughals and the Sultanates in the south had to buy a license from them. Near about 1600, the Portuguese had their colonies on the western coast of India at Diu, Daman, Goa, Kannu, Mangalore, Kollam, Kochi, etc. In the eastern coast also they had their colonies at Nagapattinam, Milapur and Hooghly in Bengal. This stage of the Portuguese Empire had its capital at Goa. Now the Portuguese colonies had spread from Cape of Good Hope from Africa to Macau in China. And wherever they established their colonies, all this part were considered to be the part of the Indian Empire of the Portuguese, which was known as the Estado da India. Now here is the information about the Portuguese Estado da India. This name was used for those parts of India which were under the Portuguese rule from 1505 to December 1961. Portuguese India consisted of the several isolated tracts. The territory of Goa with the capital, a considerable area in the middle west coast of India, Daman with the separated territories of Dadra and Nagar Haveli, north of Mumbai and lying between the Indian state of Maharashtra and Gujarat, Div with the Panikota island on the southern coast of the Kathiawar peninsula in Gujarat state. So all these states were under the Portuguese control, which was known as the Estado da India, means the parts of India which were under the Portuguese rule. To control these colonies, Portuguese they appointed several officers for the different posts and for 3 years tenure period. Tenure period means the working period. In 17th century, 5 ships were used to arrive every year in India, and these ships were equipped with the cannons. Cannons means the holy books, Bible books. Portuguese they had their shipbuilding centers in Goa, Diu, Daman. Durable teak wood of best quality, essential things which were needed for the building of ships, all things were available in this region. Shipbuilding was an essential element in the creation of the overseas empire. It generated demand for the raw materials, technology and the manpower. In many cases received direct support from the state. The Portuguese shipbuilding industry enjoyed various incentives from the king, but was always a mix between the state and the private enterprise. With Portugal expanding, overseas building and repairing ship in the various Portuguese possessions became an option. Now in this case the Portuguese what they were used to do, they were used to bring the seamen from the Portugal to India, and that time the Indian rulers they did not had that much strong naval force, and that's why they found it difficult to fight against the strong naval forces of the Portuguese. Here only we can take the exception, and that exception is Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj, who had built his own navy. So only the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj he had his strong naval force. The Dutch and the British defeated the Portuguese naval forces in the 17th century in the sea battles. Okay, now in the next part we are going to talk about the impacts of this colonialism. Now when the Portuguese they establish their control over the sea coast of India, so that time the Portuguese they prohibited to build any religious monuments except churches. So they gave the permission to build only the churches in the Indian provinces under their rule, but rest of the monuments, religious monuments were not allowed to build, like temple, masjid, gurudwara and so on. As well as they prohibited celebrations of the religious festivals. So celebrations of the festivals were not allowed, or wedding functions as well were not allowed. So here we can see that the Portuguese they not only control on the land of India, but they also control on the individual's life, because building religious monuments were not allowed, as well as celebration of any religious festival were not allowed, as well as the wedding functions were not allowed. Not only this, but also the Portuguese rulers they also tried to end the local language. They forced the people to learn the Portuguese language. When the Portuguese they appointed people for the different works. So that time the intention was to convert them into the Christianity, and here the Portuguese, they forced the people to convert their religion into the Christianity. In the beginning of their rule, they made Goa a free port that resulted in attracting traders from the various countries to Goa. So student, before moving towards the next part, I want to conclude that we have seen about the Portuguese. Especially here we talk about the Vasco da Gama, who was the first seafarer who reached the port of Calicut in India in 1498, and how he controlled on the Indian sea coast. He established his colonies on the western coast and built many forts for the protection from the external attack. As well as we talk about the Carthage, which was the license by the Portuguese. If anybody wants to sail their boats in Indian Ocean, so first they had to take the permission from the Portuguese. Afterwards, we had seen the Portuguese had so strong naval force, and that's why the Mughal and Sultanates, they also couldn't help. They also had to buy a license from them. Only the Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj was the single person who had his strong naval force. In 1608, the Portuguese had their control on the colonies which they had established on the western coast of India, like Diu Daman, Kannur, Mangalore, Kochi, and in the eastern coast of India. As well as we talk about how the Portuguese established their colonies from Cape of Good Hope to Macau in China, and they appointed different workers on the different posts in administrative field. And Portuguese, they had taken the benefits of the fightings which were happening between the kings. Portuguese, they took the advantage of these conflicts, and they established their colonies all over the sea coast, in the western coast as well as on the eastern coast. Portuguese, they prohibited to build the religious monuments except the churches, as well as they prohibited people from celebration of the religious festival and wedding functions too. When they offered people employ, so main intention was to convert them into the Christianity. In the beginning, they made Goa a free port, so many traders, they can come to Goa and they can trade with them. Okay, so now student will move to the next part, that is arrival and the expansion of British power in India. The British India, the British established East India Company on 31st December 1600, and the King Elizabeth, who was the queen that time of the Britain, she granted permission to the company to trade in the eastern countries. What is East India Company? East India Company was the name of several historical European companies charted with Asia, more especially with the India. and British East India Company founded in 1600. Now we have to check how the British East India Company worked in India. So 1612 AD, this British East India Company established factories in Surat with the permission of the Emperor Jahangir, and they continued their trading activity for a few years from here and later on expanded their area at Chennai, Mumbai and Calcutta. The East India Company wasn't concerned about the local needs. So when the British they established East India Company, so their aim was only to gain more and more profit. So that's why they didn't concern about the local people needs. Its main aim was to make profit. A large chunk of the profits went to the queen, and whatever the profits they used to make, it went to the Queen Elizabeth. Thus, its commercial motive made it a successful business enterprise. So, how actually it was working? So, here you can see the British East India Company ruled India with the little interference from the British government. The company even had its own army led by the British officer and staffed by Sipai or the Indian soldier. So they made their team, they had their own army, and they needed soldiers. So that time they appointed Indian on that position. Most of the company's troops were Hindus or Muslims. About 1 in 6 was British. Yet only the British could be commissioned officer. No Indian could reach a higher rank than that of the petty officer. So here what they did, they appointed Indian people but as a soldier, not as a not as an officer. So they had given the higher post to the British people only, and work like soldier or sipayu they had appointed Indian people. In the beginning, the East India Company operation were limited to send their good to the eastern countries to sell the British goods in those countries. So what they did, whatever the things they made in India, so they used to take from those things from India to the eastern countries. They used to sell those things in the eastern countries, and whatever the profit they used to get, from that profit they used to buy the spices and the cash carried from the home to sell the spices in England and to earn profits. So they used to buy the profits, they used to buy the spices from the eastern countries, and they used to sell that spices in their home country to earn more and more profits. Student, now we have to think, now when they were doing this trade, so only one way they were using, and that was the waterway. Okay, so they needed sailboats, and these sailboats of those days needed to plan their forward and backward voyages in the specific period of the year. So waterways, we know that it's a slow medium for the transportation. So that time the advanced machine or the techniques were not there, so that's why it was taking much longer time. So near about 1 year they needed to forward and to backward their voyages in the year. So therefore to carry out the trade transaction was more tedious. Tedious means what? Too long or too slow or too dull. Okay, because it needed near about 1 year, and therefore to carry out the trade transaction was more tedious. Under such circumstances, the British were in a need of the permanent place to build. So British they needed warehouse at that specific time. Okay, so The British, they needed the permanent place where they can build this warehouse. Now warehouse means what? Warehouse in simple language we can say the godown, where we can keep the goods, where we can store the goods, and whenever we feel, so we can sell that. So they needed these warehouses to store the goods brought at a low prices. Now the British boats, they used to sail from the England during the month of December to April, and again it used to return to England after an year in the month of January, after completing the trading transaction in India. So means what? They used to send their boat from India to England and again from England to India, but near about it used to take 1 year timing. And now they required the place where they can stay in India in this 9 to 13 month, because between this trading there was a gap between 9 to 13 months, and now the Britisher, they needed the place where they can rest, where they can stay in India. So hence what they did, they decided to build their factories where goods are brought, stored in India. Okay, so the British, they needed the place where they can keep their material, their goods, as well as they needed the place where they can stay in this 9 to 13 months period, and that's why they decided to build the factories in India. And the people who was working in the factories, they were called as factors. During the 1700 and 1800, the East India Company slowly took control of India. Student, here I want to mention that 96% of the company's army of 3 lakh men in India, they were native to India. British believed that they were superior and looked down upon their dark skin compatriots. Means what? So here they believe that they were superior because they had white skin, and the Indians, they had a dark skin. So that's why they kept Indian as a sipai, as a soldier. And British, they did not respect Indian culture or the Indian religious traditions and the beliefs. And whatever they paid to these soldiers, that was miserable, that was very less, and their treatment towards these soldiers were also very bad. So student, today we'll stop here, and the next part of the British colonialism, tomorrow we are going to continue. Thank you. And students, I am giving the multiple choice question test after this video, so you have to just go through the test. Whatever things we learned today, on that basis only I have planned this test. So attendance will be marked in that test only. Thank you.